California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and other public areas. So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a as you're leaving a whorehouse.
When Greg Gutfeld goes after Gavin Newsom, it's more than a roastitz. A full-scale political demolition laced with razor-sharp wit and relentless sarcasm. With each punchline, he strips away the glossy image to expose the dysfunction behind. California's collapsing stage act. Soaring crime, vanishing businesses, and empty theatrics become comedic fuel. Newsom's hair might stay flawless, but his reputation doesn't make it out alive. California didn't get a governor, it got a full-time PR stunt in Gutfeld. He's not buying the act for a second.
So if restoring order is evil, then the Dems are now the party of disorder. Turns out the only system they had was wokeism, and it rotted any basic principles the party had to begin with. Which is why, like Gavin himself, they're left looking at 2028's hopes going up in flames. And this time, no one is going to help them put it out.
Gavin Newsom enters a room like he's auditioning for a shampoo commercial, hair perfectly coiffed. Ego shining brighter than the Golden Gate, but Greg Gutfeld doesn't waste a second. Newsom's not stepping into a debate. He's stepping into a roast pit, and Gutfeld's already turned the heat all the way up.
Apparently, the baked bread exemption has puzzled observers for months, but Newsom told reporters it's just part of the sausage making of politics. So what's that mean, sausage making? We know it has nothing to do with Gavin cooking. He prefers dining out, especially when everyone else is locked down under threat of arrest. The phrase refers to the unpleasant way in which a process is carried out behind the scenes. When someone says, you don't want to know how the sausage is made, it's usually referring to something gross.
Greg dives straight into the hypocrisy, torching Newsom for preaching environmentalism while flying private like it's a weekend hobby. It's like a vegan showing up to a barbecue wearing foie gras. Completely absurd. Meanwhile, wildfires rage, water shortages grow, and California still leads in per capita carbon emissions. But hey, at least his Instagram selfie with a wine glass looked environmentally conscious. Priorities, right?
California Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass denounced the federal immigration raids. So now they don't want California to have ice or water. So last week, Newsom said he hopes the conservative Supreme Court will overturn the current law that bans his state from removing out-of-control homeless encampments. Imagine that. Well, what did you expect, Gavin? That the sanctuary seekers were going to show up and win a Bay?
Speaking of disasters, Greg tears into Newsom's housing crisis like a demolition crew on overdrive. Here's a guy who can't manage to build a single home for working families, yet churns out executive orders faster than you can say permit. Backlog. Plans vanish, red tape strangles construction, and every so-called affordable housing project ends up wedged into someone's backyard parking spot. Meanwhile, Gavin's latest solution? A flashy billboard campaign because nothing. Says we're fixing homelessness like decorative posters.
If you could be the governor of any state, what would it be? And you might say, oh, I would be in Texas, live free or die. No, that's New Hampshire. Just live free, whatever. It's
or just die.
Die, or just, it's California. Because people can live under the most incompetent governance ever, but it's still California, right?
Then there's California's crime wave Newsom style. Greg wonders where the governor hid his magic wand, because all he seems to do is sprinkle buzzwords and call it community engagement. Carjackings, open air, drug markets, aggressive. Panhandling Main Street now resembles a dystopian film set, and residents practically need survival guides for the weekend. Meanwhile, Gavin's go-to move is issuing a press release praising compassionate leadership, as if that's going to get your iPhone back from a guy in a minivan.
So why do I keep bringing up Gavin? Well, other than my respect for his work in American Psycho, he's starting to distance himself from his party's worst ideas. Newsom, a guy who hates fossil fuels but could still bring down the price of gas by wringing out his hair, once proclaimed that his state would be a sanctuary to all who seek it. Then people actually came, tons of them, moving faster than a mob of Walgreens shoplifters.
Greg digs even deeper into Gavin Newsom's grandstanding theatrics. Cancel this. Mandate that. Scold the other states. At this point, Newsom's middle name might as well be Performance. He's California's most famous virtue signaler, parading executive overreach like a kid bragging about eating all the ice cream. Just quietly fund actual solutions. Gavin preferably without tweeting them from a hillside overlooking the chaos. Then there's the budget, which Greg says looks more like Newsom's personal checkbook. Wild spending sprees on nonprofits, grants, to anyone with a finger in the air, and promises that bleed straight into future deficits. California pours tax money into high-concept programs, high-speed rail, universal designer diapers, unicorn-level climate tech while basic infrastructure falls apart. And let's not forget the mask hypocrisy. Precariously recalls Newsom. Indoor dining ban followed by his infamous celebrity dinner party. Nothing screams do as I say, like rewriting the rules by example booking a reservation before the press release even hits. Gavin pulled it off with a grin, seemingly unfazed by the cracked mirror staring back at him.
So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a whorehouse. Who hasn't?
What's a condom?
But as always, when a far-left Dem runs for national office, he acts like a Republican. This is where the left is really pro-trans. Suddenly, they grow bald.
Greg doesn't let up when it comes to Gavin Newsom's inflated healthcare promises. Universal coverage, mental health reform, drug recovery programs, it all sounds great on paper. But in practice, it's just roadmaps, working groups, and endless pilot studies. Try booking a basic checkup at your local clinic and enjoy the 6-month wait. Meanwhile, state officials keep gushing about strategic vision. Then comes the education collapse. K-12 schools shut down, parents left. Scrambling, students falling behind, and California's academic rankings nosediving. Yet Gavin keeps pitching dreamy initiatives about equitable access and education to .0y. And of course, there's the Hollywood hypocrisy. Newsom's golden cocoon model runs on lobbyist lines, insider contracts, and celebrity endorsements, popping up faster than LGBTQ license plates. Greg calls it what it is, a grand political con. Newsom's not running a state, he's running a talent agency.
Ow.
The only question is, who's producing actual results?
So Newsom is fed up with tent cities, the crime, the urban decay? No, he's not mad about that stuff. He's mad you noticed. It's like a criminal telling a jury he's sorry he robbed 25 banks when he's just sorry he got caught on the 26th. Because this isn't some spontaneous crisis. It's a man-made disaster like Chernobyl or Fox and Friends.
Let's talk about Gavin Newsom's pandemic posture. First, he crowned himself the lockdown king, closing salons, gyms, and even bakery lines, preaching discipline to the masses. Then, he's caught dining at the French Laundry like it's a campaign launch. His policies swing harder than his private jet schedule. Gutfeld emphasizes, rules are for regular folks. Gavin writes laws, then poses in photos breaking them. Then there's the budget brag. Newsom boasted about billions in reserves, only to burn through them on pet causes, bailouts, and baffling grant programs. California's credit rating is wobbling, yet Gavin still found room to fund electric surfboards and solar-powered boats no one asked for. And let's not forget the PR addiction. Every crisis starts with a sleek campaign wildfire prep via Instagram, drought response through a celebrity PSA, earthquake readiness, hashtagged to death. But on the ground, it's crime tape and boarded-up businesses. Greg calls out the glaring disconnect between Gavin's glossy branding and grim reality.
Gavin ponders why Dems lost.
We lost. We lost the popular vote, and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed.
And we need to be humble about that, and we need to have some grace, and we need to understand why. Was it because of the incumbency penalty? Was it because of inflation? Was it because of interest rates? Was it because of immigration? Was it because we were too, quote unquote, woke? Was it because of the issues with Israel? Was it all of the above? I think we are going through that forensic. We need to understand at the same time, we also have to push back against the whitewaters and headwinds of the Trump administration.
Environmental flubs? Gavin Newsom has a portfolio. He champions a zero-carbon future while quietly approving fossil fuel permits buried under layers of offset jargon. The state imposes carbon taxes, yet hands out industry waivers no one bothers to read. Greg Gutfeld Gavin's speeches are greener than his actual results. Then there's Newsom's political climb. Mayor. Lieutenant governor. Governor like scaling a staircase made entirely of campaign promises. By the time he reaches the top, the structure's already leaning. But Gavin still beams like a kid who built a Lego. Palace without checking the foundation. And let's not forget his favorite trick, the endless cycle of task forces. California faces a crisis. Gavin rolls out a new commission. Gives it a shiny name like Innovation Cohort or Future Now Response, and calls it progress. Greg notes no one wields buzzwords quite like Gavin. It's not about solving problems, it's about sounding like a TED Talk wrapped in organic kale.
So Los Angeles is on fire again. It's like deja vu, the French words for Newsom sucks. So while ICE was out investigating a criminal conspiracy, rioters assumed it was an immigration raid and swarmed and assaulted the feds. And no surprise, the state's leadership spent 2 days giving the rioters more support than Pelosi's underwire.
Greg dives headfirst into the circus that is Gavin Newsom's energy policy, chuckling at the logic of shutting down nuclear plants while begging Californians not to run their air conditioners during heat waves. The tech capital of the world reduced to please don't microwave dinner at 7 p.m., the irony practically melts into the asphalt. Blackouts are now so routine. Greg jokes that candles might soon be taxed as a luxury energy source. And who's responsible? The guy whose backup generator probably runs on freshly squeezed smugness. Greg points out how Gavin frames every issue as a moral crusade. Each press conference becomes a sermon, every bill a new commandment. Meanwhile, California has become a bureaucratic minefield. You need a license to run a lemonade stand and a minor in zoning law just to fix your fence. Yet while small businesses drown in red tape, Gavin's corporate pals get tax breaks like their party favors. Newsom claims to champion the little guy, just not the one who isn't already on his donor list or featured in a campaign ad.
Now, it's often said that life is like a crap sandwich. The more bread you have, the less crap you gotta eat. But in Gavin Newsom's California, they mean it literally. California recently passed a law mandating a higher minimum wage for fast food restaurants, raising it from 16 to 20 bucks an hour. But it offers an odd exemption for chains that bake bread and sell it as a standalone item. Why? What difference does that make? Why shouldn't a restaurant/bakery be subject to the same laws as everybody else? Is the bakers union that powerful? If you cross them, will you wind up with the Pillsbury Doughboy's head in your bed? No one will say. But according to a new Bloomberg News report, Newsom pushed for the bread exemption to help a longtime campaign donor, billionaire Greg Flynn, who happens to own a bunch of Panera Breads.
Greg takes aim at Gavin Newsom's bizarre obsession with comparing California to entire countries. Newsom loves to drop lines like, if California were a nation, as if running a DMV that barely functions is equivalent to managing a global economy. Greg chuckles. If California were a nation, it'd be the one constantly rescuing its own citizens from potholes and wildfire evacuations. Right after bragging about electric buses nobody can afford, then there's the water crisis. Greg skewers Gavin for constantly blaming climate change while ignoring the actual rot in the state's infrastructure. Water storage projects are strangled by endless environmental red tape. Droughts come like clockwork. But somehow the state is always caught flat-footed. Every time Gavin shows up on camera, he's slicker than a bottle of avocado oil, pitching his polished lines like he's selling hope in bulk. But But whenever he tries to dunk on Texas or Florida, California trips over its own dysfunction. Greg piles on, listing the greatest hits: skyrocketing crime, crumbling cities, and sidewalks doubling as open-air rehab centers. Newsom, he says, seems to genuinely believe charisma can replace competence. The perfect hair, the gleaming teeth, the rehearsed hand gestures. It's like watching a live-action political Barbie doll with interchangeable outfits, but only one speech. A spectacle without substance, staged in widescreen chaos.
Kennedy, I think the answer is yes, 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 yes.
Was it because of Israel? Yes. Interest rates? Yes. Too woke? Yes. It's like every bad policy that trickled up to the White House during the Biden administration started in California. That state is responsible for the worst politicians in modern history. And he is at the top of the list. And there are some ignoramuses on that list.
Adam Schiff,
Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Like, those are all the people who are the products of the California monoparty vacuum. And he's the guy who thinks he's going to run for president when, so much of the state is absolutely unlivable. And so every project that he's championed, he's now trying to demonize conveniently. And people are not that dumb.
Greg jokes that if Gavin Newsom ran a bakery, he'd blow $10 million on fancy signage, drop $15 million on influencer campaigns, and forget to actually bake the bread. But he'd still host a ribbon-cutting ceremony, grinning like the oven wasn't stone cold. Yeah. Even Gavin's attempts at humility feel like curated performance art. Greg roasts the so-called listening tour. Newsom launched after breaking his own COVID rules. Suddenly it was all about hearing the pain of every day. People. Greg laughs, saying Gavin's idea of accountability is showing up somewhere upscale, nodding meaningfully and faking remorse with handcrafted artisanal sorrow. When the recall effort came, Greg says Gavin didn't defend his record he played. The victim like a Broadway understudy, finally snagging the lead. He dodged criticism with partisan theatrics, smeared opponents, and hid behind unions and Hollywood endorsements. As for Gavin's legacy, Greg paints him as the unreliable narrator of California's slow-motion, collapse constantly rewriting the plot while everything crumbles behind him. He'll leave behind the most expensive, overregulated, underperforming state in the nation. But hey, it'll be immaculately filtered on Instagram. Because in Gavin's world, if you look good falling off a cliff, that's apparently what passes for leadership.